What was your wittiest comeback that you're still proud of? Working at a pizza shop. Troublesome customer tries to stack coupons that clearly state 1 coupon per purchase. After being refused by everyone in the restaurant including the owner, he goes on a tirade saying that the district attorney is his cousin and was threatening a lawsuit. LOL. As he was heading for the door, he said, "You can't afford to mess with me," I shouted after him. "You can't afford the large pizza." Got him. I'm big guy, 6 feet 6 inches 270ish lbs, and this happened about 2 years ago. I was grocery shopping with my wife and went looking for something that was on the list. I don't remember what. I was heading up one of the aisles when I crossed paths with a shorter dude that was obviously on some type of upper. He was bouncing all over the place looking for something. He noticed me as I passed him and he stops and says, "Wow, you're big fella." I reply, "Yes I am." I constantly get this remark. As I'm continuing by him he states, "I could take you though." I stopped and put a surprised look on my face and exclaimed, "Really? All 12 inches? His face went red. "Frick you." I smiled at him and said, "That's the spirit." He mumbled something and walked away. That was probably my best comeback ever. My mom was asking about my daughter and her boyfriend. Are they going to get married? I'm just not ready to be a great grandmother. Well, you could try being a good one first. Whenever my grandmother would bug my mom about getting married and having kids, her response was, "You can be a grandma 9 months from next Friday, but if you want a son-in-law it's going to take a little longer." Playing hockey growing up meant you always had to be on your toes when it came to chirping. I was maybe 17 at the time, and it was November, so everyone was trying to grow the dustiest mustaches they could. Mine was pretty gnarly, patchy and inconsistent. I line up next to another forward on a face-off and he looks at me and says, "You should wipe those pubes off your face," in reference to my stash, which was a well-deserved chirp no doubt. But yeah boy, here had been practicing your mom jokes, as all teens do. So I hit him back with the "It's not my fault your mom doesn't shave her pee." Canadian F-bud. Not me who delivered. Friends out between bars, a bit tipsy, we stopped to talk to her acquaintance, girl. My friend gets closer to her and sniffs, "You smell like men." Without missing a beat, she replies, "I'm lucky I didn't get close to you, or I'd smell like a pea." This happened more than 10 years ago and we still remember it from time to time. The A in this sentence transforms it from a compliment to a burn. Not really an insult, but a buddy of mine burned his forehead on an engine and someone asked him what happened. I told them my belt buckle was really hot. A buddy of mine burned his forehead on an engine. Not that your quip was bad, but TBH I'm more intrigued by this. Not me, but a friend of mine. As students, a group of townies were shouting abuse at us. My buddy shouted abuse back and one of them said, "You're playing a dangerous game. Do you know who my dad is?" My friend responded, "No, do you?" Guy walks into my bar with brown robes and I ask, "What's with the robes? You just get out of a Renaissance fair?" He replies, "No, I'm a Carmelite priest." I exclaim, "I'll be damned." He answers, "I hope not." He totally got me in front of whole bar. You just lived a joke. Getting my license to sell alcohol in a new area. Magistrate had been refusing people all morning and the police officer supporting my application knew this guy refused everybody, so we'd apply another day, but I still had to go up and be questioned. Part of getting a license is that there are people you are not allowed to serve. One of these is known prostitutes. He asks me to list all the people to not serve, me concluding my list, and, ahem, known ladies of the evening. Judge, you mean ladies of the night? Me. I obviously go out a lot earlier than you, Your Honor. If this is real then fricking heck M8. My husband, he's a big fella, said "Don't touch what you can't afford" to me once when I slapped his butt. I instantly replied, "Not if I'm paying by the pound." LB. I didn't mean to be nasty, it just plopped out before I could stop it. He probably remembers that one in the middle of the night when he can't sleep. I used to work as a carpenter's assistant. For some reason, I bought myself a 22-ounce framing hammer, which is, to be honest, more hammer than you'll ever need. One guy I worked with was teasing me about it. "A real carpenter doesn't need more than a 16-ouncer. I replied, "You've been listening to your wife too much. Huh, she's been telling you size doesn't matter, right?" If only he'd had said that you were compensating for something with the size of your hammer, he might have managed to win the argument, yet he chose the dumb route instead and got completely annihilated. Late to the game, but at Thanksgiving one year, my whole family was sitting around talking, and winning contests came up. One of my brothers looked at me and snocked, "Oh yeah, Maddie with real gingers. What was the last thing you ever won?" I looked around the room at all my blood relatives and answered by the looks of it, the genetic lottery. Your name makes it that much better. Father working on the roof. Wind blows a ladder over him. Well at 3am us 3R. I guess this means I'm counting on you now. Me. Don't worry dad. I won't let you down. He nearly fell off the roof laughing so much. How are you dad joked your dad. I was the dealer on a roulette table. Customer, what do I get if the ball lands in a number besides the one I bet on? Me. My condolences. Not the greatest, but I was proud of myself for how quick I was. My sister was cleaning out her room the other week and basically left bags of old clothes and garbage in the living room in the process. So of course her room was now spotless but the rest of the house was a disaster. When I told her she was messy as all heck, she argued, "Messy? Have you seen my room?" I answered, "How can I? It's all over the house." I'm an engineering freshman this year. My brother, who's a sophomore, changed majors from engineering to flight this semester after failing a course or two. When we were home for spring break we were casually teasing each other and he just says "You're dumb. LOL got him." I put on a fake pout and said "Dang you're right. Guess I'm gonna have to be a pilot now." It was just one class. Source, "I'm the brother LOL." Not mine, but my friend called me dickless and I responded "I do have a dong" and he came back with "Well spit it out, it's not yours." I'm still in shock from how great that comeback was. Everything was fine until the grid was shut down by dickless here. This wasn't a comeback, but a witty burn for sure. On the bus in high school, a girl, who frequently annoyed me with her loud storytelling, was telling everyone about how she was getting hit on by one of the trash collectors while waiting for the bus. Typically I was the quiet kid who kept to myself, but this time I chimed in with "I think he was just trying to do his job." My first gold and silver. Thank you strangers. It's always the quiet ones who cook the meanest roast. One of the greatest comebacks ever witnessed was from a friend of mine who had blacked out drunk on the sofa at a party and had been basically unconscious for over an hour. Other friend walks in and lets us know that some of the girls we know are coming. One who my friend didn't like. He shouts out, "Hey Chris, your girlfriend will be here soon." He rolls over eyes still closed and grumbles out, "I didn't know your mum went out this late." Rolls over back to sleep. Classic Shorzy. I was at a John Oliver stand-up show, and he told a story about how one time before a show, a fan came up to him and gave him an entire bicycle. I don't remember much more than that, but the whole bit was essentially how crazy and memorable and weird it was to be presented with an entire cycle by a stranger. Some time after this, I really had to go to the bathroom. I was sitting in the front row and didn't want to draw attention to myself or miss anything, but I couldn't wait, so I got up and started walking down the aisle towards the back. As I feared, Oliver noticed and called me out. "Oh you, where do you think you're going?" Without missing a beat I turned around and said, "Oh, to get your bike." Everyone laughed. He laughed. I got to pee. It's a good memory. It would have been way less mentally unsatisfying for me if for any reason you were not able to pee. LMAO. Graduated college 2 years ago and am currently working a rather boring desk job to save up money for grad school. My boss has a great doggo that I will periodically walk because I feel bad that it just sits next to me all day without going out much. Anyways, I had some college friends come visit me, some of which I'm not huge fans of, and one girl said, "Hey, how's your job picking up dog crap?" I think she must have seen my Snapchats or something. I was a little caught off guard by this comment though. We were never super close in college or anything. Luckily, I knew that she still doesn't have a job and is working on her music career. I responded with, "Good. Speaking of dog crap, how's your music career going?" Still feel good about that one. Her music sucks. That was a brilliant reply and execution of the comeback. Well done. And I hope you find success in your job and get your grad schooling done. Not me but a friend of mine. We were in junior high and this was a kid who was well spoken, made the grades, and was never in trouble about anything. One day this ham harpy started railing on him as he was getting off the bus. She shouted, "Something, your mother." Without skipping a beat he replies, "I wouldn't be a mother if you kept your mom in the house." I thought I was going to die. He got in trouble but framed the referral slip because the principal had to quote what he said. Ham harpy, this might be my new favorite insult. My older sister is very upset that I am taller than her, only by a few inches, but it still angers her. One day, she was being especially annoying, so, me, "Remember, I'm still taller than you." Sister, "Yeah, but my T are bigger." Me, "Even if you put your T on your head, I'd still be taller than you." She got so red-faced until my dad started laughing. She still brings it up to this day. After screwing up at work, colleague, "I'm not sure if it's because you're dyslexic or stupid." Me, "I like to think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column 2. That's good." At a party, my cousin was once boasting how much his new girlfriend changed him. "She is so great. Because of her I learned so many new words." Me, "Like water and soap?" Oof. I was visiting, from out of state, my old lab at uni, at which the girlfriend of an ex-friend happened to be waiting in line to enter. This chicka hated me. She comes up, tiny fists and balls of rage, and demands to know why I'm there. I knew exactly who she was. I look at her up and down, then meet her glare with a bored look, and ask, "And who exactly are you?" Her jaw drop and sputtering will forever make all that drama BS worth it. If you're really good at pretending you don't know someone, this is about the best comeback of them all. I had just turned 7 the day before, and I was in the car with my mom and brother after school. My brother and mom were arguing over something and my mom said, "I wasn't born yesterday" to my brother. I replied saying, "I was. It was a good day. Happy birthday, mate. Sorry I'm 1 day late." Not exactly a comeback, but my co-worker was complaining about her teenage son's behavior, how she was doing everything she could, and how his therapist wasn't doing anything that seemed to help. Exasperated, she exclaimed, "How do you medicate him butthole? With a suppository?" I replied. "That's amazing." Not me but a friend of mine. He was at a music festival in my city. It attracted a pretty big, rowdy crowd, so everyone is drinking and having a good time. Enter middle-aged woman who shoves into my friend, which makes him basically upend his pint all over himself. He isn't best pleased. The middle-aged woman decides to pick a fight for some reason and starts to get a bit physical. My friend looks her dead in the eye and without missing a beat says, "I'd freaking deck you, but some whales are protected, so guess I can't." She started crying and left. I was arguing with an Air Force colonel who thought I answered to him. I told him legally he had no authority over me. He said I was being insubordinate. I replied, "I can't be insubordinate if I'm not your subordinate." Back in the day I had to deal with one of those ridiculous douchebags that thought it was a hilarious burn to call somebody gay. He found out that I did quite well academically at school and said that makes sense. Most gay guys are smart. To which I responded, "If that's the case, you must be the straightest guy I've ever met." A guy was making fun of a very loudly printed shirt I wore in my late teens. This full-on cowboy mural abomination. I told him it was perfect for him because it had lots of pictures and no words. At an interview to work at a brewery that was newly opening, they were having to ask all these generic "so they don't sue us later" type questions. Manager, "Are you offended by or uncomfortable with foul language?" Me, "Mine or other people's?" He laughed. I got hired the next day. Once, when I was 7 and, admittedly, often obnoxiously precocious, my grandparents had been showing off my vocabulary and spelling skills to various aunts, uncles, and cousins. One of my uncles, a known joker and all-around funny guy, thought he'd get one up on me. "Can you say antithesis, antidesestab, antidis?" He tried for a good while to ask me if I could say anti-establishmentarianism, hoping to stump me. Little me calmly watched him fumble this word for a good dozen or so tries before interrupting him with, "Can you?" 25 years later, my family still bring up the one time our smart but practical joker uncle was thrown for a loop by a first grader. I was at my cousin's, very young, just learning to speak, and their mom was telling me someday you'll be able to say mayonnaise, so I just stared at her and said mayonnaise. Whole table laughed. My friend was boasting about how great it was that he wasn't going to college and blah blah blah. I can't remember what he said specifically, but at one point he says, "Ask me in years," and I said, "I will, and when I do I'll ask for fries as well." My friends were howling. Fast forward 5-6 years. He makes more money, so at least in the short term, he wasn't wrong. When I finish my BSN, cause nurses need an education, I can finally escape squalor lol. Won the war but lost the battle. Ran into my alcoholic, verbally abusive ex-boss at the grocery store. Typical I'm so cool and everyone loves me narcissist. He tried to give me a high five and make small talk like he hadn't made the last year of my life a living heck. I left him hanging and ignored his attempts at small talk. Horrible boss. What is your problem, Chappello? I haven't even talked to you in 2 months. Me. And it's been the best 2 months all year. The look on his face before he turned red and walked away was one of the most satisfying things I have ever seen. I was at a pub with some of my friends when a waitress brought us a bunch of tap water that we hadn't ordered. She says they're from that table and points to a table with a bunch of guys that eventually all came pooling over. They notice right away that my friends are Persian and start talking about their backgrounds, and this one guy who was talking the most says that he's Dutch. Without thinking I said that explains the waters, and everyone did a bunch of oohs and jumping all over each other laughing as I quickly waved that it was a joke. I grew up in a very Dutch influenced community and have plenty of Dutch friends who are always joking about their parents' thriftiness. So some may not get the joke. On a side note, they said that they were trying to be creative, that girls always get drinks bought for them, so they wanted to stand out. It was cute, and we all had a good laugh. As a Canadian, the weirdest thing about this story is that you didn't all already have tap water in front of you almost as soon as you sat down, tbh. I was the youngest player in a game of knockout at a summer camp. The kid who won 3 games in a row was an arrogant prick who relentlessly made fun of all of us losers for having crappy shoes and no skills. He wore a cool pair of Air Jordans. I caught a lucky break. In the 4th game I was in the zone and I was making every free throw. Eventually, it was just him and me. My streak ended, but he started bricking every shot too. Every time he missed, all of the kids that were watching laughed and cheered me on. It must have looked ridiculous. I had to throw the ball with everything I had to make it to the hoop. I was exhausted. The bystanders were giving me excited words of encouragement, and when I finally got him out, everyone freaked. It was an explosion of jubilation. Then the arrogant kid came over and called me a few names, and I couldn't get a word in to defend myself because he embarrassed me and he had broken my confidence. I felt like I was about to cry. As a last resort, after mumbling a few quiet requests for him to leave me alone, I yelled at him. I called him the worst name I had in my vocabulary. "Yawn butthole." The kids laughed at this and the arrogant kid responded, "At least my mother didn't drop me on my head when I was born. You freaking retard." Without missing a beat I agreed. "Yeah, she threw you." The kids all lost it and the arrogant kid left the court. It might not be the cleverest comeback, but it felt great to have a group of strangers have my back when I was getting crap on. I was always super quiet growing up and got teased a lot. There was the kid who always get on the bus and ask me what time he should pick me up for our date and snicker with his friend. I'm not even sure where I heard it or why I said it, but one day I decided to reply instead of ignoring it. I told him 5 o'clock. "You bring the handcuffs. I have the whip." Dead. Freaking silence. The kid never said another word to me, even years later when I took my driving test and he was there too. I wished him luck and he wouldn't talk to me. I can only imagine how shocked he was because, like I said, I was super quiet normally and an easy target. Sounds good. See you at 5. Me, my dad, and my brother were talking. My dad tells us that women could bend their back in a way that their face is in their crotch, but dudes can't. My brother proceeds to prove him wrong by bending over himself. To which I reply, "Is that why your breath stinks?" LOL. Reminds me of the old "it's impossible to touch your elbows together behind your back" gag that we played back in grade school and early high school. To our delight, there always seemed to be a girl willing to prove us wrong. This one guy was hitting on me in middle school. He asked if I wanted to go on a date with him. I told him no. He said I won't take no for an answer. I said well you should, because you'll be hearing it a lot. He'll be thinking about that when he can't sleep. One of my old bosses, whom I loved working for, was snarky and sarcastic with myself and the other employees. We loved it. It lightened the mood, and there were some nasty burns in there. He also happened to be gay. One day he was complaining about some sample he tried at Whole Foods, which I vaguely remember as being kale water or some other such nonsense. It's Whole Foods. I'm sure you can imagine. His comment was God it was awful. It tasted like butthole that was covered in lawn clippings. I popped my head around the corner and said well, Tim, as the only gay guy and vegetarian here, you're the most qualified to make that statement. He just kinda stared at me and sputtered for a bit. I no longer work for him but even now we'll laugh about it. I was 19 and had fought my way to working loss prevention at Best Buy. A woman came up to the LP desk trying to check out. I pointed her to the checkout counters that were about 20 feet to my left and she says in a very crappy tone, "Oh, then what are you? Loss prevention. They let girls do that now? Yeah, from what I hear, we can even vote now and everything." She was not impressed, but I sure was. Was eating alone in the cafeteria one day in high school and this dickwad comes by and says, "Sitting with all your friends?" I replied, "Nah, sitting with all yours." He was deflated. Happened when I was 11/12 and used to swim a lot. Mom, you know, we'd save so much money if you guys stopped drinking so much milk. Me, we'd save more if you stopped smoking. We were fake arguing for fun and he said shut up or I'll frick you in the eye and I said then I'll finally see where you're coming from. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.